All to settle for the upcoming session, one of the most awaited one. That's why I see a house full. So request everyone to, whosoever is having lunch at the back towards the left side of the room, request them to please be seated. And I would request also people who sit in the middle to, if they have a plate around, they can just move towards the back side, right? And I'll just give it another couple of seconds. Please settle down. Just a couple of seconds, and then I'll give you a brief about the session and how it's going to be like, and I'll hand over the mic to Mr. DS. Yeah. Okay. Just a couple of seconds. I'll give you a couple of seconds to settle down. Wow, that's pin drop silence. I think everybody's had a good meal. Great. So now, very interesting session. Of course, one of its kind. It's a space startup mixer program, and I'm sure you are equally intrigued as I am. Now, what we'll do, a quick run through this is the space startup mixer session is to connect with entrepreneurs, mentors, investors, and industry experts. Unlock opportunities, access resources, and accelerate your path to success in space industry. It's a dynamic platform dedicated to fueling the ambitions of visionary startups, fostering collaborations, innovation, and the boundless potential of entrepreneurial endeavors. Amazing. All right. So I would like to call for the opening remarks, Mr. DS Govindrajan, also a board member of SIA and President Aniara Space KickSky.Space. Please, sir, can we have you so that you can take over? Thank you. Other people also. Moderator, Mr. Anagh Singh, VP MGF-Kavachh. Can we have everybody who's been announced on with no random order towards it's going to be a casual mixer. That's what I've got to know from Mr. And what we'll call Mr. Raghu Das, co-founder CEO of Almagest Corp, Mr. Mredul, I'm sorry if I'm now pronouncing names incorrectly, founding partner Riceberg Ventures, Mr. Mudit Kumar, Senior Director LGT Bank India, and then I have Mr. Michael from ESA BIC CH, Mr. Vinay Simha, Mr. Vinay Simha from SkyServe.ai, Mr. Sakthikumar, founder and CEO of OrbitAID, Mr. Manu Nair, CEO EtherealX, Mr. Prateep Basu, co-founder of SatShow, and Dr. Shivani Verma from Amity University. Thank you so much. Please, can we have everybody on the stage?
Colleagues to take their seat, and as she introduced, we would like this to be more interactive. In our opinion, it should not be like typical panel discussions where each one will make their introductions and the moderator will ask a few questions. So we want to deviate from the normal one. As she rightly put it, we hope that this is going to be very interesting for all the people assembled here and including ourselves. And what I request is, maybe each one, since we are here, can make a 1 minute or 2 minute remark on what they do and what they perceive pertaining to the topic of this session. And then we would like, as I mentioned, that it should be more interactive. You can ask questions, you can give comment, and you can even give suggestions, feedback for us to improve upon for the next similar kind of sessions. Having said that, maybe our friends, I would like to give my views about the accelerator program. Since we run an accelerator, India's first VC-backed space tech startup-focused accelerator program called KickSky. I'm proud to say that we started last year and we commenced our first cohort in December last, and consisting of 6 emerging startups, and they graduated last month. So we had a session where they could give their pitch to a select investors and okay, then their journey of getting investment starts. So we are very proud of that. As you all know, though there is a difference between incubators and accelerators, many times people will get confused. The reason I'm bringing that is when I went to some very large organizations stating that we would like to start accelerator program, immediately, oh, is it incubator? Then I had to tell it, no, it is not an incubator. So that's the reason I want to use the word. There is a subtle difference between incubator and accelerator. Typically, in my opinion, incubator is the one who will support the early stage entrepreneurs or startups. So they provide, I'll leave it to Professor Shivani. She will tell more about that because that is more focused by academic institutions. So accelerator, as the name indicates, we would like to take these startups who have come to some level, and we would like to provide various programs, including mentorship, to accelerate their process, be it on technical, be it on commercial, be it on business model or investment. So this is what we do. At KickSky, we have a panel of both national and international experts as mentors and who have voluntarily come to support. So we run typically 6-month program, 4-month intensive, and then we will have a demo day where we will allow the external investors also to come and participate, take a decision to make investment if they want to. Then the next question comes, okay, you provide this mentorship, 6 months, what next? So we are evolving. We have a lot of programs which we have conceived ourselves, which we would like to come out with as we move forward. Our next cohort starts in a month from now, and we would like to create our own fund, KickSky.India fund, and we would like to, when we grow a little bit, when we have a few more cohorts coming up, we would like to create a alumni of KickSky thing. As we also move forward, we would like to work, because we greatly believe in collaborative approach. That means we will always find a ways and means of getting into collaboration with like-minded people. Maybe it's industries, maybe with educational institutions, whatever we think. And we also probably involve the startups who would have graduated now. After 2-3 years, they may probably come to a level. They also become our collaborating partner for providing their facility for conducting tests, etc. This is in short what we are doing in connection with the session, what we are discussing today. Thank you.
From an entity named Bound Tech Growth Fund Kavachh. It's an upcoming entity, and for a last few years, in fact, more than 5 years, I've been associated with the deep tech ecosystem from the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor, and then at Invest India leading deep tech investments. This new upcoming entity has been put together. You must have heard yesterday from our chairman, Dr. Ajay Kumar. It's an upcoming entity, and a stellar team behind it has come together to actually facilitate long-term patient capital for deep tech startups. There are multiple purposes why, funding is a challenge in the deep tech ecosystem, and this is probably going to be the first of its kind entity enabling that. So very excited for the times ahead that the entity will create the value in the deep tech ecosystem. Deep tech in general is going to power tomorrow's almost anything and everything under the sun. The way the deep tech ecosystem is evolving from its nascency to now, fructifying the fruits is a very long-term journey. And in that journey, I think in my previous life, I also wrote the deep tech policy, which is out for comments of the government of India, where we wanted to enable, or rather the government's thinking is to enable and bolster India's economic future and also its capabilities that will be driven by technology as such. So it's, my compliments to SIA in terms of putting together the ecosystem around space, which is one of the bigger elements of deep tech that is, blooming in India. So my compliments to them, and it's great to see the whole ecosystem come together for an event like this, and also the ideas that will be coming out of this, when we connect the dots with each other, including not only building the ecosystem, but having shared resources, shared infrastructure, along with, obviously the main pain point, which is financing deep tech startups. I think the future looks bright that way, and happy to play my part. I think we are around here for the next 1.5 hours. My stellar team and the leadership is also here, happy to have a word and take things in, as they come. So it's open and open to any questions further on.
Thank you, Anagh. So my name is Raghu Das. I'm partner of E2MC Venture. We are a purely space-focused venture, and so we have been very active in India for the last 2 years. We are also a founding member of KickSky Lab. So idea behind our investment, also starting with the KickSky, is multifold. First of all, we sort of see India is both supplier as well as consumer. I think there are few countries in the world that has the combination of both, besides US and European market. So India may be one of the consumer and supplier and consumer, has every combination that makes a successful space ecosystem. So, and so what we look at when we on investment side of it is we look at a team. The team is very important. A business plan that is sort of geared towards creating the local ecosystem, as well as looking at both supply side of it as well as demand side of it, both side of it, which India exists, and then other thing is basically connecting with the ecosystem, because I think most of the startup is in India are not exposed to how the space, because it's been traditionally in India has been mostly government business and commercial businesses coming in the last 2 or 3 years. We sort of see the connecting the network and how they should work. So in that sense, we find India is very interesting for us to start looking into it and sort of training them, mentoring them, advising them on how to grow, how to start and grow business, and that's our. I'm open to any question that you may have.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael. Within this round, I represent ESA BIC Switzerland, and you might have asked what this stands for. So ESA, European Space Agency, and BIC, it's Business Incubation Center. So the European Space Agency has introduced business incubation centers for ideas and technologies, deep technologies around space, in order to facilitate entrepreneurship with a space connection. Almost all of the ESA member states have these business incubation centers, and there's also one in Switzerland. What we are supporting is early stage startups. So we are really in the definition, which was mentioned before, a clear an incubator. We don't have to do anything at all with acceleration. So we're an incubation center providing equity-free funding along with technical support and business support to really get startups prepared for the following rounds. We are in business quite some while, so a couple of years. We have always 20 startups within our program. Each half a year, 5 drop out, 5 new are admitted to the program, so that adds up to around 50 alumni. So in overall, we have around 70 startups that are either in the program or went through the program. They have developed quite successfully. So over the past 7 to 8 years, they have acquired around close to $600 million, euros, almost same, of third-party, mostly venture-backed funding. Along with them comes a lot of jobs created, but also very important, and I mentioned already today in another session, a significant portion of them have revenues above 1 million. So that means they are really creating business. It's not just developing. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of the panel. Thank you very much for the questions I will receive, and I'm looking forward to connect.
Thank you. Very good afternoon to one and all. It's an honor being a part of this discussion. This is Shivani Verma. I'm a professor in Amity Institute of Space Science and Technology, Amity University, Noida. I'm also the director of Engineers Research Solutions Private Limited, a startup. So we are discussing about the big space or a big void that is looming over all of us. Previously, it was a very closed space, but now it has opened up like anything. So we are having space as the 5th domain for operational purposes. We are having it as a big financial giant where I would say each and every startup can invest in its own way, and a big way, I would say. The government is taking a lot of initiatives to enable that kind of ecosystem. Like even on this stage, we are having a venture capitalist with us, we are having a banker with us, we are having a data provider with us. So through the, I would say, the policies, through its efforts, and through the recommendations of our political front, like our Union Minister, Shri Jitendra Singh said, we are to achieve a 5-fold increase in space economy. And the government has realized that without the involvement of NGEs, this is not going to be possible. So startups need to come up, and I would say it is not a big thing in investing, because it's not necessary that we go for big propulsion systems, we go for big rocket systems. We can start with the basic electronic component manufacturing. We need not go for space grade components directly. We can start with a small initiative. Like I am director of a startup, so we have started with the data analysis. More important, we need to have an ecosystem which is supporting us. I'm working in Amity University, so our honorable founder president, sir, Dr. Ashok Kumar Chauhan, he has ensured that we get that kind of ecosystem where a faculty can also be director of a startup. So even the National Education Policy 2020 mandates every university to have that kind of ecosystem where a student should be trained as a very good entrepreneur, where every academia needs to have appropriate connections with industries, so that the student gets a know-how about the systems that are working outside the academic buildings. So that kind of ecosystem, yes, we are trying to build in our Amity University to support what our moderator started with. Yes, we are having a very good incubation center that is a bit different from accelerator. So Amity Innovation Incubator, we are having around 800 startups incubated, working in almost every field, starting from agri-tech to medical to number of other B2C or D2C areas. And I would recommend that opening a startup or working on a startup is no more a big issue. Even from academic background, even the academia can invest in a startup and work in a good way. Yeah, thank you so much.
Good afternoon. This is Mudit, senior private banker from LGT India. So LGT being a global private banker, based out of Switzerland, Europe. So that's my official introduction. But personally, I'm a very active angel investor as well, having exposure into directly into startups across the domains. So what has happened in last 4 or 5 years specifically? These startup investment has been an asset class in itself. The thing which has been started almost 5-10 years or maybe more than that in US, Y Combinator has been one of the greatest example that we have seen. So this is from last 4 or 5 years, this ecosystem has been slowly and suddenly developing in India from a investment point of view. Now we as private bankers are there to facilitate from a non-technical perspective. Of course, technical, these founders are very much equipped with, but all those kind of non-technical things, whether it is financing, as one of our fellow colleague members have said, that one is financing, but it's not just financing. It's apart from financing, what extra hand-holding all these kind of new age startups require. Just to give a sample number for that, I think last week there was a study by NASSCOM that we have almost close to 3,800 startups there in our country. Out of this, almost 480 startups have been registered last year only. Interestingly, out of this 480 startups, 100 are have some sort of IP related to that into deep tech, various domain of deep techs, whether it is AIs, automation, quantum computing, robotics, etc. So this is the kind of ecosystem that we are seeing and we are nurturing. So as a private banker, I come with the expertise to handhold these kind of startups from a non-technical perspective, from maybe seed level, angel stage to maybe more of a mature stage growth. So from day zero to maybe advanced level kind of thing, what those kind of startups require from a non-technical perspective, that I try to assist them, I try to handhold them. Because at the end of the day, I think this event has been a strong acknowledgement for that case. Every single person sitting in this room is in a way collaborating to make this ecosystem much larger, to create the value proposition out of this ecosystem. So that's as a thought, as an angel investor or maybe as a private banker. Open for any questions.
Hi, thank you. So I am Mredul. I am the founding partner at Riceberg Ventures. So at Riceberg, we are trying to cover 3 major aspects of ecosystem building. One being capital, access to risk capital. Second is talent, enabling talent, nurturing talent. And third is in building the infrastructure via universities, via industries, to bring them all together to enable a lot of these startups. So in case of capital, we have our own venture capital fund which invests in early stage deep tech startups. We also partner with a lot of financial institutions within India as well as globally outside for growth capital. Partnerships like Celesta Capital, Lux Capital are some places we are sort of tapping into. From a talent perspective, we are also the founding members of KickSky, which is India's first space tech accelerator. And my story with space tech actually goes back to 2013 when we were working with ISRO to launch India's first student satellite. From being India's first student satellite to starting the India's first space tech accelerator, I've sort of seen that journey. I've seen how ISRO has grown in terms of capabilities, in terms of enabling the larger private players and startup ecosystem to nurture talent and grow talent within India. So KickSky was an attempt to make sure that a lot of these early entrepreneurs can get access to the right mentorship, the right capabilities, so that they can, reach their product, reach their outcomes, reach their product, and raise capital from the ecosystem. And the third bit is a lot of university partnerships in Europe via ETH Zurich, also Cambridge University, IIT Bombay. So we are also partnering with a lot of universities to understand the kind of research work that is happening at the ground level and sort of enable technology transfer between multiple universities. So largely, I think we've been very bullish on the India space story specifically, and with portfolio companies like EtherealX, Manastu, and with KickSky, we are trying to do our contribution to the ecosystem building so that we can head towards something, you know, big that is lined up to come. But yeah, that is a brief about myself. I'll hand it over to Manu.
Good afternoon. It's been a pleasure meeting everyone that I haven't in the last few months. So it feels good to be back here. I represent EtherealX here. We are a company based out of Bangalore building the world's first fully reusable medium lift launch vehicle, as in we can put about 24.8 tons into the low Earth orbit in expendable configuration, about 8 tons in fully reusable and about 22.8 in partially reusable. We can also access GTO and translunar injection as well. We are a company that's only about 25 months old, and we've raised over 40 crores in this time. We are in the process of raising further larger rounds and also achieving our technical milestones in the interim. We are establishing India's largest private rocket engine test facility down south of Tamil Nadu. We've already begun the process and looking forward to our engine test very soon and our test launch in a few months. So happy to have any questions from all of you. I'll pass it on to Vinay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vinay. Great to be here with my co-panelist on this session. We are SkyServe. We are an edge computing platform on board satellites. We solve for latency, we solve for affordability of geospatial data, and we solve for seamless use of geospatial products. We have done a couple of missions already via SpaceX. We have done 4. We'll be doing 15 more missions in the next 18 months. Happy to share about our journey, what we are doing, how we are doing. Edge computing is extremely relevant in the current era, the future, as we build out the era of smart satellites. Satellites do not understand when they capture images as what's a good data or a bad data. Like if you take a selfie and then you figure out if the image is not good, you don't send it to your friends or you don't share it on social media. You either try to edit the image and then you retake the image. Satellite does not have this intelligence on board. That's exactly what we do here. The moment a satellite takes an image of the Earth, we immediately process it saying, is it fit for user perspective or not? Does it solve for the user's business need or not? Can it identify the crop? Can it identify the water pollution? Can it identify the city urbanization? Can it identify the night lights? Is it value for it to be downlinked further after you process it? And that's exactly what we do. And we send this intelligent APIs on board the satellite to the ground systems. Happy to answer questions in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. I think now you understand why we have kept the name Mixer. We have a fantastic mix of people with different perspectives, all working towards a startup ecosystem. We have startups who are relentlessly working and creating value, and of course in turn creating valuation for themselves. And we have a set of investors who are waiting to make investment in the right ventures. We have academic institutions who want to provide support. We have accelerator programmer to accelerate the process of the startups. And we have the government initiative from Kavachh, who are always willing to help the startup ecosystem, startup industry, things like that. So with this, we would not like to go through our, as I mentioned, usual formality of seeking views of the panelists here. It is open to the audience here. Please feel free to identify yourself and give your views, or if you have questions to ask any one of us here, please feel free to ask. I think it's more of an interactive from now onwards, and feel free to give your opinion and questions. Thanks.
Our parent company is a service company. I would like to know the startup folks here that how can the service industry help in getting the bootstrap for the startups in space domain? Is the question clear? Yeah, so what I was asking was that how can the service industry help bootstrapping the startups in the space domain, and what are the requirements that they would be having from the service domain perspective?
Could you also expand on, I mean, broadly speaking, any startup that is being bootstrapped, it does entertain any kind of support they can get, right? At that point, we're just hustling out to get results, and that continues to be even after funding. So, if you could elaborate more on which service industry specifically you're talking about, that
Yeah,
would be
so
more.
I come from IT service industry, and we have been working with more on the system side.
Okay.
But we are also now
Got it.
into space domain, and we are helping some space startups as well.
Understood.
Yeah.
So in that case, I think the primary thing that I think any startup can use help in from, let's say, any IT services, company for that matter, would be setting up of strong and secure servers, because that's something that we really appreciate in our journey, because one of the fundamental challenges that we face when you're operating on either AWS or any other cloud platforms or servers for that matter is one, limitation in terms of how well you can utilize or compatible your licenses or your softwares are. And even if they are so, after a couple of you're limited in terms of moving the licenses from one particular server to another. You probably can move maximum 1 or 2 times, right? So it's always better for us to have an in-house server, and setting that up and also setting up a very strong encryption around that, or any kind of help in doing that would be something that I think every startup would appreciate. Vinay, if you want to add a few cents.
Largely, the cloud credits will only take you to one way. I think the VC ecosystem and the accelerator ecosystem will enable us in the cloud credits, but after that, what? And we can't hop from one cloud provider to other, especially with geospatial data. I mean, when we take megabytes and gigabytes of data, it is not a scalable proposition. Every startup will look for crunching the cloud cost. For example, for us, we finally put up a large rack of servers. We put up encryption. We put up a certain set of, because these are dual use technologies and we have to adhere to certain things, and we also have to have a very firm level of security as well. So those are things that we do, and not many guys understood what are the level of complexities that was there, and we had to do that ourselves. Now, I mean, that we did about 4 or 5 years back, and we still continue to do. Even the systems that we have to have a different level of encryption. Assets are not easy to be managed, and we have to have certain level of access control when you come into the office or what you use and things like that. So those are things that we do as a base layer. The second is the DevOps layer. A lot of things at DevOps are automated, but that's still not enough for us. They are used for a system that's there on the ground. So if you're testing systems that will work in space, once you release a patch, it is not going to be changed like that on the fly, on the go, on the ground.
Correct.
Yeah, and it has flips of it, it has challenges of it. So we have to rigorously test it to death, kind of a thing. Those are things that we do, and folks who can support us on this journey, those are things that the key is that they should have had some sort of exposure on this so that we don't need to handhold them. Because we're all holding hot coals at every point of time. So if we have to teach and then go, then that's where the challenge is. We would want to fast track our iterative cycles and get to solving it quicker.
Yeah,
That
this,
would be the
test automations, and I think those things can be a lot of help. Yeah, understood. Thanks a lot.
Even though being part of the panel, I would like to take the opportunity of sitting between investors, but also startups, to speak about one issue we are witnessing in Switzerland or in Europe in general. And this is about the very long procurement cycles within space industry. And what we saw in the past is that this is really an issue on both ends. And that would be interesting, the thoughts of my panel colleagues from both ends, how they on one hand manage the long procurement cycle with regards to providing the services, so on the startup side, but on the other hand, how investors mitigate the risk not receiving return of investment within a very small or within a reasonable time span.
If you have to be a space investor, you have to have patience. So I think there is no other plan, because space is hard and it takes a lot of capital. So I think it's nothing to do with the other businesses like B2C business. It is B2B or B2G. I think it takes time, and I think investors like us who have decided to be in space investment, we have patience.
Thank you. So I would like to add here a point. Like I mentioned, that when we are going for space industry, space startups, it is not mandatory that at the initial stage we go for big systems. We can always go for the basic components, not necessarily space grade components at the starting point. We can go for COTS, and later on we can move on to mil grade or space grade components. That is one thing. Second thing is, when we are working on startup in data analysis field, there is a lot of support given to us by NASA. We have a lot of data from ISRO. We have a lot of data from European Space Agency. So with no cost involved, we can move on to data analysis and give it to ISRO or specialists for deciphering further. So that is how maybe startups can start without investing too much of capital. Because previously we understand the capital and political support was too much required for venturing into the space business. But now it is no more an obstacle. Not only that, we are having number of government schemes. Like I'm having a TDF project, that is a Technology Development Fund project funded by DRDO. So they are providing me 1 CR support, right? We are also working on ISRO project. They are also providing us support as ISRO Respond project. There is very good monetary support being provided by IDEX. That is another government initiative. So personally, I don't feel fund is anymore an obstacle for startups. There are a number of ways. Yeah.
I had a question for you, Professor Shivani. From an upskilling standpoint, what are some things which you are doing to bring in a lot of these? So space tech is very specific in nature, right? Of course, there are a lot of mechanical and aerospace engineering stuff which, of course, will apply. But are you trying to bring in a lot of specific niche skill sets and capabilities in your education curriculum as well? And if you can elaborate a bit.
Right. So if I talk about my academia first, that is about my Amity University. So like I said, National Education Policy 2020, it has mandated all the academic institutions to train their students in such a manner that they come out as successful entrepreneurs, and there is very good interaction between academia and industry. So when we are delivering our courses, we make sure that after every module, we get a guest lecture arranged by somebody from Industria, so that the student can understand how he or she can, implement her knowledge into that particular field. That is one thing. If I talk about the startup, when I said that, okay, we can start with the basic things, what I mean to say is we can start with data analysis. That is the basic thing. We can start with the basic components, not directly going into the big systems. So that is what I meant. I hope I have answered your question. Yeah, thanks.
Are there any questions? Very good. I was actually looking out at you. If you had not raised your hands, I would have asked you. Since you interact with a lot of startups, I'm sure that you will have a feedback to share as to what expectations are from those startups, what they actually look at different kinds of people, mentors or investors, things like that. Maybe you can give your perspective. Oh, okay.
From last couple of years, dynamics has changed. Investors' mindsets have changed a lot. Today, the kind of promoters, family offices, corporates that we are actively engaged with has that bent of mind that they want to take exposure into startups ecosystem, and they want to take exposure into deep tech ecosystem, which may consisting of maybe AIs and space tech both. Keeping in mind the kind of space tech ecosystem that has emerged from last 1 to 2 years, the kind of technology that we have been working on thanks to ISRO, and thanks to all those kind of political ecosystem that has been emerged. So these investors are very much interested to be part of that journey. It's not about what kind of wealth multiple they will be creating on their investment. It's about being a part of that journey. So they want to indulge into that kind of gratification. It's for investors, it's a matter of gratification. Now let's be a part of space tech ecosystem. Let's be a part of Indian space industry journey and growth. So from that perspective, yes, people are very much inclined. And I'm not talking about big investors, big institutional investors. I'm talking about big individual investors as well, in individual capacity. If an ordinary person like me, is having some sort of exposure into these kind of domains, you can easily expect that people at large are very much open to engage with these kind of space tech ideations at whatever level they are engaging with. But it's more of a feeling of a gratification that they want to be a part of this journey. We have seen the kind of successes that we have earned with success of Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan sort of projects. So it's a kind of, again, feeling of that elation, feeling of that pride. Let's support this ecosystem. Let's be a part of that impact investment. So it's not just an investment, it's a kind of part of their impact investing portfolio. So investor fraternity, including we private bankers, are seeing the very large picture out of this. I again repeat that it's not just a matter of multiple, what multiples we are generating or on our wealth. It will be just a byproduct. If we locate the opportunities, if we handhold these kind of ideations, and in a way, if we support the entire ecosystem, all these multiples will follow. I hope I answer your query.
Just one small point, right? So every space tech, every technical idea leads to some business impact or business outcomes, and these investors actually understand the business outcomes out of it, and hence they can actually understand the ROI that they can derive out of the investments. So it's just about being patient and making them understand the value that you're creating from the technology that you have developed, and if that value is very clear and translated to some real monetary value, it sort of excites the investors more, because it is not just the money that they're making out of it, but also enabling, the growth of technology.
Just one more thing to add. One more thing to add to it. One more thing to add to it. Keeping in mind the kind of good startup name that India has produced from last couple of years, be it Skyroot, be it Agnicool, be it for that matter EtherealX as well. I have got this specific query from one of my client that, I have heard of EtherealX. Do you have any connect in EtherealX? So that's the kind of, bent of mind and inclination, active inclination. So that's how, these, investor fraternity, the mindset of those investors have been evolving from last couple of years.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Ivan D'Souza, and I'm the CEO of BioVisor, headquartered in Boston. I have 3 questions today, but before that, we are a space health startup based and we present globally in UK, Japan, and US, and we are opening up a center in India as well. My 3 questions are: one is for commercialization of the space industry. I'm not talking about the government funding, because government funding comes with a lot of pride and achievement. But from a commercialization perspective, my question is, there are 3 ways in which you see today the commercialization can happen, and there will be some more ways I would like to understand. One is the satellite and communication. The second is data and providing the data mechanics and analytics. And the third is the space tourism, which is not currently available in India. How do you feel you could commercialize in the long-term basis, and how the valuation of those companies will become multi-million dollar? That's the first question. Second question I have specifically from the banking point of view, your appetite for risk, because US has gone over the last 15 years of space industry of taking in so much of risk appetite. NASA released a fund of $250 million this month of utilizing for startups in space. So what, as a banker, you feel how much risk you can take, because the first few startups are definitely going to fail, and how much of money you're going to burn? That's my second question. My third question is for the university perspective. The talent doesn't exist in the country right now. How are you going to get more STEM students, and how are you going to bring them to a level that is globally achieving to a number of kind of quality of the services or the kind of talent that you could develop? So thank you very much for the opportunity to ask you these questions.
Very good questions, I think.
Okay, yeah. So with your third question. So when we are talking about academia, like I mentioned, as a requirement of national educational policy, the universities have a mandate to include course curriculum in such a manner that the students come out as a very successful entrepreneur. So when I'm saying that, it is not just a change in the course content, that also involves a lot of industrial training as a part of their course, that also involves a lot of interaction with industry people as a part of their course. So that is how we are trying to train the students, that how they can get into the practical concepts of a particular subject. Not only that, that is, terminology of universities. Yeah.
My specific question, I can take the curriculum right now. The Space University in France, which has a curriculum for space, that doesn't exist in the country. Okay. So how are you going to add that aspect?
There is one institute called Indian Institute of Space Technology in Trivandrum, set up by ISRO many years back. So there is one university at the level of IITs to deliver the education in space technology.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But the number of people that would be required is huge, and all universities in the country should have a space curriculum course as well.
Okay.
That's nice to know, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a professor in Amity Institute of Space Science and Technology. So we are having a curriculum that is very much aligned towards industrial applications. It is not just a theory of space science and avionics we are teaching our students. So maybe we invite you to come over to our department and we can discuss.
Thank you.
So coming back to your second question regarding, private bankers' roles and what the kind of risk appetite that we can take to. So to highlight, as a private banker, my first job is not to create money or chase multiple money multiple that I'll be creating. My first and foremost, duty and responsibility is to manage risk for my clients. So that is the first and foremost thing. So there's a kind of entire checklist that how to manage that kind of risk before entering into any kind of startup ideations, whether it is deep tech or non-deep tech, space tech or non-space tech. What kind of risk and how to manage those risks in an optimal way. Because before suggesting any ideation, to my clients, I carry a kind of fiduciary responsibility on behalf of my clients to manage their money. Second, I will not be entering, and I'm not a supporter. We private bankers are not a supporter of just doing standalone transactions of investing into startups. As I have said, it's not just the facilitation of money. It's just hand-holding them, suggesting them, actively engaging with them. It's not like that I suggest to my client that, sir, please, invest into ABC ideation. We need to actively engage with the startup, locating that whatsoever, whereby my value addition in terms of non-technical things, maybe structuring the entire business, making them ready to go to the market or to go to potential VCs and all. So it requires lots and lots of activities, lots of active engagement with the promoters, with the founders. That's where that risk management has to be done. Multiple will automatically become as a byproduct. So that's the overall scheme of things that we try to manage at first place before taking any ideation to my clients. Hope this answers, or yeah.
Yeah, it does answer your the methodology that you follow. At the point that I'm trying to highlight more is your appetite for risk in this business, because the gestation period is longer.
Yeah, of course.
And you don't know whether it is going to be successful. So, and you don't know whether it's going to be commercialization as well. So how, because you need to have a big growth fund, which you don't know the future as well. So if you don't support startups as a funding agency, the risk appetite will be always been thought that, I'm not getting my return back quickly. So how do you balance that?
So I'll highlight two things over here. So first is, this space tech business, as you have rightly pointed out, that has got long gestation period. So you have to got that kind of patience. So what a startup ecosystem require is the patient capital. Whosoever investor coming on board on an individual level or on a institutional level has to have that kind of patience. That it's a long gestation period. Of course, there will be timelines, there will be, kind of momentary achievements time to time. But at the end of the day, it's slightly long-term period that we are talking about. Second, and I think the foremost critical thing is how passionate you are, how passionate that founder is to create that business that he or she is into or he or she is building. It's not just one business. It's today's founders are having that kind of passion about creating that ecosystem, impacting that ecosystem. So first thing is patient capital that you require, patient investor, whosoever investor you are, and how passionate that as an founder you are or as an investor you are towards supporting that kind of space tech domain. So it's a mix of both these things. Thank you.
Yeah, commercialization angle. Vinay and I will split. I think he'll take care of the data side and partly the satellite POV as well. I think the roadmap is very clear when it comes to commercialization for, I think, all the three of us, all the three sectors that you mentioned for that matter. We see a very strong trend, or let's say a strong market towards launchers as well as towards downstream analytics. We also see the payload pattern changing from micro and smaller satellites going towards constellations, and now heavier payloads towards modules and stations and labs and whatnot, in space services for that matter. So if you ask me, I think your second question and your first question are kind of interlinked. See, for anyone to even, like you mentioned, risk capital for that matter, any industry for that is going to be, there's going to be some kind of risk. In the case of space, there's also an ambiguity, primarily because investors still don't understand the space yet fully. Right? It's also an education process for most of the investors that come in. And as long as the like Mudit rightly mentioned, it's also not only just patient capital but also patient founders, right? That also go with that are also able to provide really strong conviction towards what they're building really matters. Now, one the only reason why there is so much inflow of investments really coming forward is because there is conviction towards the commercialization capability of all of these technologies. Now, when you speak about, let's say, launches for that matter, you see most of the market is heavily skewed. I think the US has primarily almost 85% to 86% of the market, right? So that is a fantastic area where you can really mobilize the skewed market towards your end. You have a huge opportunity there, a true opportunity to really multipolarize the launcher segment. And then you also have ISRO on one side, who've also shown very clear signs towards the kind of sector of the launch vehicles in itself that we should be focusing on. So if you're asking about, is there enough data points for either of these sectors to see a path towards commercialization? The answer is a solid yes. And if you're asking towards asking about a roadmap towards commercialization for each of these technologies, then I think with respect to launches, it is very clear. As long as your technology is flown, you will not know. You can put down anything on paper, you can do 100 tests on ground, but as long as the rocket is not up in the air, you do not know whether or not the rocket is going to work. But that is something that you got to live with, right? And when you've done it over and over, you know what really works and what doesn't. So that is where the founding team and the experience really comes into play. So I will let Vinay take over the data analytics and the display.
Thanks. The biggest driver for us, all space companies, is our TRL maturity and the heritage associated with that. Are you TRL 9 and above? Are you TRL 8 and above? What is your fastest path to growth? Fastest path to get to that maturity will be the first guiding principles for us. With respect to Earth observation, where our edge computing stack flies on a couple of satellites right now and will be on multiple satellites in this year, next year. Our fundamental approach, when you look at the satellites that have been put up in orbit, they are primarily, Earth observation is a significant part of that market, excluding comms like Starlink and Kuiper and others coming in as well, OneWeb and others. Almost majority of the revenue of the satellites that are put up there who's solving for Earth observation the money is there on the downstream, not on the upstream. 60% of the assets that are put up in orbit are only able to, about 60% of satellites who are there in orbit can only service the imaging capability, 40% cannot. The data that they capture are not reliable because of there's a cloud cover that covers about 65 to 70%, and there's no clean image that one can capture considering the big scene with the capture of the Earth, independent of use cases that you look at. And this is across sensors, multispectral, hyperspectral, RF, SAR, IoT as well, that when you want to pass through it. The biggest opportunity that we have here is that how do we reduce the data bytes of unwanted data that we are still pushing through the ground station and paying for the bills on the ground station and on the cloud, and then increasing the cost of geospatial solution. Can we make it better? That's what we are obsessed about, and that's what we continue to do. On the current missions that we have completed, on any of the data that we have processed, we are able to give 5x reduction, 5x reduction on the data size, 3x reduction on the price points, and almost near real-time data processing. Purely because of other constraints, we could not do it. Most of the processing of ours, what we do on board a satellite itself, gets done in a minute. In 60 seconds, we are able to process images that are captured at the maximum. We intend to come for some of the utilities that we run, it's in milliseconds right now. And that's what we do. Hence, the current cost of geospatial products that you have on ground, which is expensive, will become much more affordable. In India, or globally, the largest geospatial market, about 48 to 49% rest in the US as a major mature market. India is a catch-up country in use of geospatial data, but sincerely believe the moment that data becomes affordable, you will have awesome data products that's been built on the ground because the cost of solution goes down significantly. And that's what we are betting on. That's what we are looking to enable.
And speaking of the commercial side of thing as well, the end users, if that's what also you meant, see, when it comes to launches, like we were speaking about, 5 years back, you were looking at primary payloads being satellites. And, you know, back in 2005, let's say 2001 to 2004, there was a huge change in the payload type. And after that, we've seen that change coming in 5 to 6 years back. So the end users are now mostly either network telecommunication satellites or constellations that are looking at providing different kinds of services. But we also are predicting a very huge shift in the end user by 2033. We feel there is going to be a tight regulation from a LEO POV. We are also going to see a shift there, as well as in the, let's say, there's a huge gray area when it comes to. I'll keep it a little reserved, but again, to keep it clear, there is a gray area in the payload market for launchers, right? That is between payload volume and payload mass. This has existed for decades, and solving that has been the primary challenge, right? And currently, SpaceX is doing that with a set of primary payloads. And the best bet for you would be to also look at how the primary payload pattern is going to shift, because that is where your key answer will be there.
Excuse me, I would like to make a point, just complementing what my friends just mentioned. So I'm not very sure about France, but in India, after Chandrayaan 3, everybody is talking about space. So even, a 9-year-old kid, he knows about Chandrayaan 3, he knows about Aditya L1. So not from perspective of a director of a startup or from a banker or a venture capitalist, this risk would be worth taking, I think. Yeah, investing in a space startup. So not only the financial figures, other factors also need to be taken into account. That is what I believe.
There can definitely be an emotional feeling and being proud and happy that what you achieved. But I think what the point I was trying to generally make is don't start from scratch. Start from where they left and then rebuild solutions for commercialization to things that fit in the overall ecosystem or scheme of things. So that NASA has done work for last 50 years. They've already done. They have failed a lot. So don't start from there. Start from where you can build something from and learn from them. Is what my thought is. So we are not like starting from zero. We are starting from we know that and then build on it.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Maybe one question. I think we are running out of time. She's already.
Just one final question. My name is Vinay. I'm a co-founder of a quantum security startup early stage called Pramatra Space. My question is to the investors, and would like to hear more from the right side of the panel. How do you evaluate early stage startups? What are some of the factors you give a lot of weightage to or less weightage to? And what would be your advice to early stage startups who are present here, and especially in the context of the current funding winter that the Indian startup ecosystem is going through? So would love to hear your insights on that.
Thanks.
I think we are running out of time, but I would be happy to basically engage with you, and because 5 questions will take a long time to answer and clearly. So I think let's do justice to your question and justice to the time for people. I think so. Let's take it offline, if you don't mind. So I'll be happy to engage with you.
Thank you. With that, I think we have come to the end of this session, and thank you very much for everybody for your active participation. The very much Raghu said that we will engage you offline shows that interest we have on both sides. Thank you very much.
Check. It's working. Okay, so I think we'll do one quick picture with our entrepreneurs, our innovators, our VCs, and everybody. What an interesting session. Can we have a round of applause for everyone, please? And as a token from SIA-INDIA, I would request Sir to please hand over mementos to each one of them on stage as a ritual. I would also request everyone, whosoever had questions can, of course, it's a mixer session, so we would request everybody who was on stage, they can just mingle around, have their questions, do a little bit of networking over tea and coffee session for another couple of 10-15 minutes. And next we meet at the Crystal Ballroom for the closing plenary round at 4:30. So would request everyone to move to Crystal Ballroom at 4:30. You're open for tea and coffee networking session now. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.